The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, with 6 suicides on record this year, we ask tonight, what's driving a growing number of men to end it all? It's a question that's trending, one that is worrying for officials. We take a candid look tonight. It's all straight ahead for you this evening on Beyond the Headlines. Good evening, I'm Shanique Miller. This is Beyond the Headlines. It's great to have you along this evening. There is justifiable concern on the mental health of men in the country as authorities are now grappling with an uptick of men committing suicides in the country. Stakeholders continue to urge men to speak up and not be silenced by fear or shame, as there is light at the end of the tunnel. Tonight, Beyond the Headlines is giving deserved focus on the issue of men and suicides and what could be behind the spike. Linton Ritchie Jr. has more, and then we discuss.
A dark cloud of suicide looms over the male community in the Bahamas as stakeholders and authorities raise concern over the growing number of men falling victim to suicide this year. With 6 suicides already recorded for 2025, including 2 alleged suicides just days apart last week, a prominent male pastor and counselor is sounding the alarm to men across the country.
It's very, very important for men to talk. Men have a tendency to keep their feelings internalized and to not interact with a counselor or vent about their issues.
Veteran counselor and senior pastor of Bahamas Faith Ministries, Dave Burrows, emphasized that men, like women, benefit greatly from therapy and counseling.
What I have found is that when men do come in, they really understand that they have been wrong and that they end up appreciating the benefits of the counseling.
For Pastor Burrows, the issue of suicide has hit close to home as the latest victim, 22-year-old Cameron Gabriel Roll, was a member of his church.
Everything that we know of this young man, he was a great young man, very mannerly, very encouraging to others.
Burrows remembers the young man as someone who left behind countless memories that will never be forgotten.
He was quiet, but it's good to know that even in spite of this situation, that he left a legacy of positive impact, and that's what everyone needs to focus on.
The latter part of 2024 saw a series of suicides among children and young adults, including a 22-year-old man who jumped to his death off a cliff in Bosine Town last December, a 21-year-old woman found hanging in her home in November, and a heartbreaking case in October when an 8-year-old boy was also found hanging in his home. Burrows urges parents to pay closer attention to their children's mental health.
Don't expect your children to come into your world. You have to go into theirs. A lot of times we have children in our homes and we just make assumptions. But at that age, many times they don't talk to us about their issues, so we have to talk to them.
In 2023, 6 suicides were recorded. By 2024, that number rose to 8, and now, just 3 months into 2025, authorities have already recorded 6 suicides, a disturbing trend that continues to raise concern. Linton Ritchie Jr., Eyewitness News.
Ray's concern is quite correct, and this evening we are going to look at what could be driving this. You heard those ages, and we know how startling that was, and it was even just more recent last week. Very, very, very shocking to hear Pastor Dave Burrows there speak about the latest suicide victim, a member of his church, 22 years old, promising a gentleman. Someone in the newsroom just before airtime shared with me that they went to school together and showed pictures of somebody who cared about how he looked and appeared, by all appearances, to be headed in the right direction and very well presented and just a nice person according to everyone's account. But something obviously wasn't altogether going well in his life, that he felt the need to go in that direction. And he's somebody who, obviously had the right influences. I mean, a member of a church and obviously a contributing member. And there it is, though, ending it all late last week. And so this evening, we're going to get into some discussion. Joining me this evening is Father Bradley Miller. He's rector of All Saints Parish. And Ian Thompson, a correctional supervisory officer at the Simpson Penn School for Boys. And he is also a trauma cognitive behavioral specialist, and he practices in that area as well. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you, and welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good evening, Shanique. It's a pleasure again to be with you to discuss this very sad but timely topic.
Good evening as well. I appreciate the opportunity to come by and to share.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much. I know you both have a lot to offer because you work in this field, whether directly, indirectly, by way of calling, by way of profession, and so it's a lot to get into. When you heard, and last week was really a unique week because I think just a day in between, there was one suicide, then another. What do you suppose is happening in this nation, especially where men are concerned, that men are resorting to taking their own lives? Father, you can perhaps go. Well, go ahead, Ian. You go.
I would refer to the more senior in the room.
Okay.
It's no problem.
Shanique, let me begin by saying this. We live in a challenging world. We live in a world where we are in trying times, I would call it. And a lot of people are uneasy. A lot of people cannot cope with a lot of situations. Since I want to focus on men since that's what we're talking about. And for men, it is always more difficult for men than women. Not that women doesn't have the challenge that men have, but from my own research, it seems that men are more likely to commit suicide than a female. That's from my research. And I guess that is because the pressures of life is always on the man. There is pressure from either financial constraint, there's pressure from relationship, there's pressure from the home, there's societal pressure, and some of these are brought on by external forces. Some of these are brought on by, I guess, sometimes our own choosing, making a bad decision. And some, again, are brought on by the state in which we live in. And so with all of these...
When you say the state, because at first I was like, you mean the state as in the nation? When you say the state which we live in, what do you mean? The state as a nation.
For example, the government can pass a law that can either cause hardship on people if the government continue to tax people. And I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm just using a scenario that the government can tax people to the point that people are just in tight position. And so all of this can be reasons that leads to people doing things that, ordinarily they would not do. And so I want to say to persons, there are people out there that we can talk to. One of the sad things that has been ingrained in our culture is that we are told, and I was born in that era, where we were told that men don't cry. Men are supposed to be hard. When you were a little boy and you were crying, they would tell you, shut up here. You crying, what you crying for? Be a man. As if men don't have emotions, and men have emotions. So I want to say to people, look, if you're going through something, whether that's financial, what you are struggling with, there's somebody you can talk to. Talk to somebody who can assist you, to help you to overcome your financial burden, or to help you. There are financial coaches you can call, people who will be willing to talk to you. If that is a relationship, Go speak to professional people. Talk to your pastor. Talk to some counselor. If that is anything, whatever it is, speak to somebody. It's not good to just be holding in everything, because that will not happen. They say pressure boys pipe. Mm-hmm. And so we really got to get our men to the point where they need to start talking. I think we need to now put our pride on the side and drop everything and realize that, look, it's not, you don't have to be ashamed to say that, look, my wife that walked out on me, and this is the struggle I'm going through, or this is what I'm facing.
Don't be afraid to show your vulnerabilities. Yes. That's you're agreeing, and you're nodding in agreement, Ian. You're saying that, listen, as a man, and we want men are used to women wanting to see strength in them and the society in general. But you heard Father Miller just now said, don't be afraid to show that, listen, hey, if you're hurting, scream, cry, wave your hand, something.
Well, Madam Miller, that's far easier said than done, because we live in a society that doesn't celebrate vulnerability in men, period. We don't celebrate it. We laud masculinity. In fact, we even sensationalize violence.
Yes. And
most of the violence in this country is perpetuated by men, unfortunately. But what I would like to, if I can add a piece to what Father said just now, is a dynamic, a wrinkle in this I believe is lost. There are a lot of men who are also sexually abused. And as a result of that sexual abuse, it causes them to have character-damning thoughts within themselves regarding their sexuality, their functionality, and how they can be able to supply to a family or even to a woman.
Now, I know that you work very closely with men experiencing trauma. I know that you work closely even with teenagers, male, at the Simpson Pen. You are saying that a lot of what we are seeing play out in front of us. First, we saw the violence. We saw the crime and the crime numbers, and that continues. Mm-hmm. But now we are seeing it go a step further in terms of suicides and attempted suicides. You are saying a lot of that is driven by men who may have been abused?
Yes, ma'am. Abused in different capacities, emotionally, sexually. I can say firsthand that I'm well aware of what it is to be in a position, a compromising position myself. I was one that had encounters myself as a young man, and I can testify that the Lord has brought me out of that experience. And
you mean the target of another man?
Yes, the target of another man, and I've been brought out of that experience myself. But I identify with that on a personal scale, and to this point now, I could not have spoken about this years ago, but I can speak about it with passion and freedom.
So how did you shake that off of yourself, not take it on, and not harm yourself by saying, wait a minute, if this man made advances towards me, then something, I must be giving off these indications that, hey, I am of an alternative lifestyle?
Yes, well, see, I believe, Madam, the battle is within the mind. The mind, as if I can mention, according to Father's understanding, as the man thinks, so is he. So you'll find that a lot of men, because of the warfare that's in the mind, they find themselves perpetrating a self that is indifferent to their natural design. You look at the United States, and I hate to point out our cousins in I guess it would be the North, would it be?
Yes.
They are battling with a serious issue concerning what it is to be a man. And it's the most comical thing ever. A man is just a simply grown male. That's exactly what a man is. But they're battling with it. Why? Because there is a population, there is a populace that has been struggling with their own identification for such a long time. But here locally, I find that even what I said just now is very taboo. It's considered to be embarrassing. It's considered to be damning. It's considered to be detrimental to one's profession as well. I remember a time when I was younger that men who presented themselves in a feminine posture, they were ran off. They were kind of like, they were kind of violently ran off from downtown because, back in the day, downtown was the place to go out when you wanted to enjoy yourself on a Saturday afternoon. But this is the society, this is the place that we have right now. And to add to it, there is no real, or there is very few safe spaces for men to go to. I believe that men need a safe space. This is something that has been on my heart for the last several months, up until last year. And I'm trying to engineer something myself that would allow men to come and freely give of themselves to let, because we only have so much bandwidth, Lady Miller, to deal with.
I want to ask you, Ian and Father Miller, what is it that, how vulnerable are men now in the Bahamas? How vulnerable? You mentioned the fact that many, and you're right, boy, I would have never considered that point you raised, that's something added to it. But we hear now of what's being driven in this nation, and a 22-year-old, I don't imagine that he can be experiencing that. Like, what would lead a 22-year-old that we would think, even the 8-year-old, but the 22-year-old in most recent time, which was just late last week. But what's driving men to feel that they are so desperate? You mentioned that they need a safe space. You mentioned that there could be the stigmas attached, whether they have been practicing in a certain lifestyle or whether they have been approached and feel as though, like, hold on, what's up? I mean, what is happening in a nation where women are now screaming louder and wanting rights for marital rape and want that clearly defined and singled out? Like, what is it that, how does that further put men in a box and put pressure on them?
Directed to me?
Yes, you first.
How does that further put men into a box? Well, ultimately, I believe that men are essentially in a box right now, period. I believe that we have been trying to catch up from the dawn of time. I believe that the woman, the male, or the female has had a leg up from the very beginning, if we subscribe to biblical context, right? I believe that the woman has had a leg up, and from then we've been trying to catch up. But within this country, most recently, I find that the male emotion is discarded.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge disservice we do to our men, boys and grown men, because if whatever doesn't implode, explodes. So if we don't find a way to allow men the space to express themselves, not, watch this, not, I dare say, not explode, but express themselves in an environment, in a forum where they can be welcomed, where they can be understood, where they can be embraced by other women as well. Because we see the banner being flagged for women, the flagship banner being flagged for women. And to what you alluded to before concerning the law, my take on that marital rape law is that I believe that anytime you would make an investment into amending a law or instituting a law that only seems to benefit one sex, that's a danger.
That's when things start going awry.
That's when things, yes, because at the end of the day, the laws are meant to make sure that both sexes are equally beneficial. So I feel that the marital rape law, and as a disclaimer, I would say to all of my women out there under the sound of my voice, I am not ignoring your abuse or your pain in your relationships. However, what I am saying is you gaining the edge over your counterpart is not the reason, is not the resolve or the resolution to the problem. It is us coming together as a group and saying, hey, we have all been abused. Quite frankly, Lady Mill, I believe the entire country needs a chair. I believe we need a chair, a massive chair for everybody to sit down and to speak concerning these issues. One. Number two, I honestly believe that we need to be transparent about the issue that I alluded to before when it comes to our abuse. We need to be transparent in the government sector. We need to be transparent within the church. We need to be transparent in every other area of society.
Because oftentimes the church, Father Miller, oftentimes the church is guilty, huh? The church is guilty of its own abuse. Ian mentioned that, and very just listen. This here is a naked conversation tonight to talk about a very serious issue. We are very, very, very concerned and worried that every time the police sends out some sort of alert, and especially with suicide, more times than not, it's men. The women maybe attempt it, but the men, their attempts are more than likely successful. Just one or two manage to escape that. Mm-hmm. And so, Father Miller, you heard Ian say, listen, what the issue is, someone left their phone on. Who is this? Justin, send someone here quickly. But you heard Ian say, listen, a lot what is happening that we don't talk about, this here is taboo, because it's taboo because many of us aren't aware of it. And we'll pick that thought up when we come back, because we'll talk about what he said, because he went back at it again. Many men have either been assaulted by other men, being approached by other men, and that is putting them in sort of a very funny position to question themselves. Is that what's really happening here? We're going to take a break, among other things, and come back with more of Beyond the Headlines right after this break. Stay close.
While others see customers as numbers, we see our customers as people, neighbors, friends who deserve more than one-sided connections. That's why we are redefining what real connection is, by prioritizing our customers and showing our appreciation by putting our money where your loyalty is. BTC customers, claim your $200 Bahamas Air gift card when you add postpaid mobile to your internet plan. That's loyalty that flows both ways.
This one? No. Hey, look, KFC has an incredible promo.
I already had that for lunch.
Crunch your hunger cravings and satisfy the whole family with KFC bucket meals starting at just $20. Get freshly prepared golden fried chicken, buttery biscuits, and add your favorite large size. Bucket meals starting at just $20. KFC, finger licking good.
For over half a century, we've been more than just an airline. We've been a bridge, connecting families, dreams, and memories across the islands and beyond. Behind every seat sold and every journey planned, there's a dedicated team committed to making air travel affordable and accessible to everyone. At Bahamas Air, we're not just building connections, we're building a safe and dependable airline where quality service is paramount and an excellent travel experience is our priority. Wherever you're going, we're here to take you there with care, with heart, and with the promise of unforgettable journeys. We are family, and just like family, we're committed to taking care of our own. Your Bahamas Air is our Bahamas Air, because here at Bahamas Air, we don't just fly here, we live here.
What? You don't know what TDC is? Tourism Development Corporation?
You mean the Ministry of Tourism?
No, that ain't the same thing, buddy. The Tourism Development Corporation helps to develop and grow behemoth businesses in the tourism industry. You hear what they say, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Develop and grow. You don't know what all the things saying do?
What does do?
Hey, check the website, boy.
Start your journey to ownership of our #1 industry today. Log on to tdcbahamas.com.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
This segment of Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by EV Motors. Drive the future with brand new 2024 electric vehicles. EV Motors, powering your journey.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening we are going in depth with a very, very real conversation on what's driving men in particular to take their lives and commit suicide. We've had 6 suicides on record already this year. The majority of them men, really just frightening to think about it. We heard at the top of the show tonight, Pastor Dave Burrows, the pastor of Bahamas Faith Ministry, saying that the latest victim, 22 years old, was his member, went to his church, was in church, a church-going young man. Someone said to me a minute ago that was his barber's son. And so it's just so much. Another person just before I came on air this evening said that was her classmate. They went to school together. Wow. These are your neighbors, your friends, your classmates, your sons, the person you go to church with. Men in this nation are finding it very difficult on any level, many, many levels. I heard of another person who attempted suicide and fortunately was not successful with that, a man. And his reasoning for it was he felt hopeless. He felt where to go? His thing was more economic and financial. Where was he to turn? And so tonight we are sort of just peeling the covers. We are peeling and sort of like just taking off the covers to get to the bottom of why men are resorting to ending it all, something so permanent on a matter that's temporary, but they see no way out. My guest this evening, Father Bradley Miller, rector of All Saints Parish, and Ian Thompson of the Simpson Penn Boys School, and also a counselor in his own right, and also work with people experiencing trauma and a number of other areas in that arena. And so welcome back, gentlemen. It's great to have you both here. Thank you very much for joining me. Father Miller, you were going to, before the break, speak on the issue of what Ian kind of just disclosed and ripped the cover off. He says, listen, oftentimes men are, regardless of their ages, but especially young men, are grappling with the fact that they've been abused. And that abuse can show up in so many different ways. Father Miller.
Yes, and Shanique, remember, the church is no exception, because we've had situations where persons who were in the church were abused by pastors who's supposed to be leading the flock and taking care of the flock and nurturing the flock. But the church is made up of human elements, and so it has its flaws, and there are persons who in the church who sometimes go contrary to the word of God, who sometimes does not live up to that kind of expectation or living up to their call to which God has called them to. But one of the things I believe, it is always said that we are shaped by the culture that we live in. We talk, but our environment has some role to play in how we think, how we act, etc., etc. One of the problems I am really disturbed with in this country is that for some strange reason we tell people, or we give the impression that to show signs of weaknesses or show signs of vulnerability, like you're the odd person, you something wrong with you. And so because the society portray that kind of thing to us, and it gives us the impression that, especially a man, that look, you ain't supposed to be crying, you're supposed to be strong, you supposed to be able to carry the load, or you're supposed to be able to take it, without recognizing that man is a vulnerable man, that man has weakness, and sometimes when the pressure gets to that man, sometimes they look for solution. Unfortunately, the kind of solution they may take may not be the right one to do. And so all of this, and my brother here spoke about persons being abused, and sometimes they still have these scars on them. And so we even need to get people to be open up to talk, because if you do not talk, the only way you can get healing through that is by talking
and
I
know you have seen,
acknowledging that.
You have seen firsthand, because I like real examples, real stories. Father, what have you seen in all the years you've been a pastor? You're a pastor of a major church. What have you seen in terms of why men are hurting? Whether it's abuse, whether it's financial, whether it's feeling left behind and left out, whether it's feeling that they didn't pay attention in school and now they can't read. Why is it that men are feeling so disenfranchised in the Bahamas today?
Because they're disenfranchised by the society. I will give you an example. A man loses his job. He's not working. Probably he's not working. But prior to losing his job, he was a good father, he was a good husband, he was a good provider. Now he loses his job, and instead of the spouse or the children acknowledge and support him and stand by him, they put pressure on him, they force him to, and say all manner of evil against him. What that man needs is for someone to say, look, Mr. Thompson, you were a good husband. Mr. Thompson, you were a good provider. You're not working now, But this too shall pass, and when you get back on your feet, like the songwriter said, when I'm back on my feet again, you will continue to be that good provider and that good husband. Rather than pressuring the man, we need to support the man. I think we lack that support from children, from parents, from family, from colleagues, neighbors, church members. We all have to stand by each other and support each other.
Gentlemen, I don't want to beat up on men more than that, because tonight's show is not about that, but who has disenfranchised men? Well, who has picked out men and say, we can just disenfranchise you? Or did they put themselves in that position and now cannot face up to where they have caused themselves to be?
Well, Shanique, some of it is, of course, is by choice. I would agree with that. But also society in general. See, there's some stigma that is attached to our society where this ain't supposed to happen, that ain't supposed to happen. And one of the things that is stuck in our society is that you ain't supposed to show vulnerability. You're not supposed to show weakness, as if that's something wrong. And we all need to recognize that we are all, we have no power within ourselves to help ourselves. We're all weak at some point. And so we need each other. We need to support one another.
So then the Bahamas has now become a country of just weak men?
No, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying.
Ian, jump in.
I don't think, I wouldn't surmise it to be us as a collective, as a group, being weak. I would say we are misinformed. I think manhood needs to be education when it comes to manhood. For an example, one of the more, I think there's a cliche that says, experience is the best teacher. Well, I've always disagreed with that, because when you look at it from from a biblical perspective, we see that mentorship is the best teacher. Reason being, I believe, is because it is in your best interest to learn from someone else's mistake. So you'll find that an older man has the wealth of knowledge and experience that goes along with living his life. He's supposed to teach the younger man how to come up now and to live and avoid some of the same pitfalls that he avoided. The reality is we have too much fatherless homes. I would say that is at the center of a lot of this, because when a true, watchman is in a home, he's able to identify certain things. He can see and detect whether abuse is about to happen. He knows how to consult God on behalf of his family. He knows, and he has a desire to provide for us. There's so much different benefits to having a father in the home. And again, as a disclaimer, I make no knock against my wonderful Bahamian women who have been doing a sensational job.
No, don't run from that. You ain't gotta quantify and qualify your statement.
Yes, ma'am.
You are so right. When a man is in his rightful place, everything goes well. And the ladies who into this woman power will probably be vexed at me for that, but husbands are needed in every home and fathers are needed in every home. So then, that's why I ask, who told men to move? Who in this nation, whether from government straight to Tyrone down the road, disenfranchised men? You all decided y'all were going to move out the way, and now that the rubber has met the road with y'all, what is happening that is driving you all to now say, wait, forget the bunch of children that you have, and this is generalizations, of course, but you're going to go and end it all to create a further void in society?
I think, Shanique, I still, but while I hear what you're saying, I still believe that society plays a role in all of this. Is because, for example, in our society, the Bahamian society, a man that has more than one woman is called a lover. You have more than one man, they're going to call you. Everything that is negative, they will call you. And so we have this kind of, I remember when I was at COB, the University of the Bahamas now, and I was in this class that we were doing on marriage and the family. And there was this girl that we were in this group. We had a group project to do, and this girl was in this group project. This girl was making preparation to go into the teaching profession. And in this group project, this girl said to me, she said, Miller, it's nothing wrong with a man having a sweetheart. Say, but it's wrong if a woman have it. And she said, because my man need to have a spare tire. And I said to myself, what? I said, where did you get this nonsense from? And all I'm saying, here is this young lady with this kind of warped thinking is going into our school system, and she's going to inculcate that into somebody to believe in that what it is. The reality is that everybody in the marriage is called to live holy. Everybody in the marriage is called to be honest. Everybody in the marriage is called to be faithful to the marriage. It's not that the woman must be faithful and the man must not be faithful. So as Brother Thompson said, I think we need to go back and re-educate ourselves, because some of the things that we're thinking really is so far away. You know, that a man, you know, in ancient Israel, way back then, and even in some cultures today, in some of those Muslim countries, and even we see it right here, really in our country, among the Haitians. I hate to use them, but I'm going to have to use them as an example. It is the men who take the children to school. It is the man who picks the children up from school. It's the man who lead. The man is supposed to be the leader in his home. Leader doesn't mean my way or the highway. God called you as the head. Head made you lead by example. You lead your family in prayer. You lead your family in worship. You lead your family in everything. You are the leader of that home. The family, and that's why I have to put a plug in this. And that's why I give the Anglican Diocese credit for choosing this year, making this year, and focusing on the family. And so the theme for our diocese is family matters.
Well,
because we recognize if the family is out of whack, then the church could be out of whack.
There goes the country.
The society. Because I say to people all the time, I say to my people, where you think the policeman come from? He ain't come from heaven. Right. Where you think the politician come from? You talking the politicians corrupt, the police corrupt, but they come from homes. If they come from broken homes, they're going to be broken.
And that is what I wanted to ask, gentlemen, as you gave the example, Father Miller. The fact is then, so Bahamian fathers are responsible for men stumbling and losing their way. And when I say men, the younger men, because we see this suicide happening. There are a few 40-somethings, but mainly quite young men. Is it that Bahamian fathers then are responsible for where this trend and this trajectory?
Well, personally, I don't think it's just one definitive answer, Lady Miller. I think the responsibility lies on both the sexes. I think the female has the responsibility and the male has a responsibility. Both of them came together to have one child. And in some instances, 2 or 3 children. But I think the men share the lion's share of the responsibility just by virtue of their physical makeup. I'll explain. We celebrate, rightfully so, we celebrate a woman and her ability to open the door for a child to come into the earth. But we misunderstand the weight that a man carries, the weight that a man carries for carrying seed all of his life. There was an intrinsic weight, I believe, that every male carries in his life because he's bearing seed. And that's the weight of a generation. I'll explain. I believe that every man has the ability to repopulate the earth if it was only he and a few women. So that alone has a major responsibility, has a major effect on a man's life, because it's a charge for him to provide, it's a charge for him to supply, it's a charge for him to be able to take care of and to nurture everything under his care.
This is Beyond the Headlines. Tonight we're focused in on men and addressing really what the reason is, the cause behind the recent rise in suicides, especially among men. We're going to continue our conversation right after this break here on Beyond the Headlines.
So my name is Dr. Sophia Roll. I'm the resident artist for the Via Hamea Art House and Gallery. This is not something that I've gone to school for, if you will. I'm a professor. I recently got into art in 2015 because it was something that I always wanted to do. I saw something about fluid art, the abstract expressionism of fluid art really drew me. And so I'm always thinking now about art. I see the world through art. So that is, for me, very, very gratifying, very, very satisfying. So receiving the Women's Initiative grant really impacted the business because it allowed me to see in that I could have taken my craft, my art, outside of the gallery walls and really maximizing on some of the training, some of the skills that we learned. The advice that I would give to not only women, but anyone who's interested in starting a small business or starting a business is to just get started. You have to take the first step. And if you take the first step, you'd be amazed at how far you can continue to walk in that space.
For more information about how the SBDC can help your small business to make a big impact, give us a call at 461-7232 or visit sbdcbahamas.com.
At the Water and Sewage Corporation, safety and convenience are our top priorities. However, our meter readers face challenges that can make their job difficult. Locked gates to guard dogs sometimes leads to missed readings and estimated bills, which can be frustrating for you and us. That's why we're upgrading to digital meters. They bring safety, accuracy, and convenience to homes across the Bahamas. We can streamline data collection, reduce on-site visits, and provide more accurate bills with no more estimates. Digital meters also help detect leaks early, saving you from costly bills and reducing water waste. Soon, a user-friendly app will let you track your water usage, manage bills, and stay informed, all at your fingertips. Over the next year, we're rolling out digital meters nationwide, transforming how we serve you with a safer and cost-efficient water supply. To learn about our digital meters, visit our website or call us today. And don't forget to update your information at any of our locations.
Who are the boss for dancer?
International events and production, Alive, Bahamas Air, Everybody Wins Live, and Field of Vibes Bahamas Weekend presents
the Evolution Concert on Saturday, March 29th at Clifford Park, featuring Vibes Cartel and Friends.
Bahamas, Nassau, where is this Saturday the 29th of March?
It's one of the biggest events to hit the shores of Nassau, Bahamas.
Get ready for Addy the Teacher, the Dancehall King, a.k.a. the World Boss, Vibes Cartel.
Real bad man, no muggle in a shot.
Log into our official airline Bahamas Air for travel specials. It gets better. We're also giving away a brand new Cybertruck.
And up to $50,000 in cash and prizes at the concert. Compliments of Everybody Wins Live.
Log into our website, feelthevibesweekend.com.
For tickets, tables, skyboxes, and more info,
visit Ticket Flair or email intlevents242@gmail.com.
WhatsApp or call 1-242-808-2369.
I remember Cartel I go did it.
Island Luck Sportsbook is taking you to the NBA playoffs. That's right. Every $20 bet placed between February 24th and April 1st earns you an entry to win an all-expense-paid trip to an NBA playoff game. Imagine being in the stands, feeling the energy, and watching your favorite team battle for a championship. The more you bet, the more chances you have to win. So don't miss out. Place your bets now at Island Luck Sportsbook and get ready for the experience of a lifetime. Weekly drawings every Tuesday at 3 p.m. starting March 4th. Visit islandluck.com/sports for more details. Who's ready to fly off to the NBA playoffs?
So you want a space. But not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Well, tonight's show is dealing with a very serious, sobering topic, the topic of suicide. In the Bahamas, we are experiencing an unprecedented level of suicides, primarily men of varying ages, committing suicide, taking their lives. One expert said just yesterday that it's a level of hopelessness that is settled in. That's frightening to think of, because oftentimes when persons were hopeless or felt that, hey, a lot's going on, suicide wasn't the first thing that came to mind. And of course, we don't know the mindset of these people before they actually took that final step, but certainly it was something that they thought about and decided to take that route. This evening, I hope that this show deters someone, saves a life, that equips maybe a parent or guardian with some information they might need or some insight to begin looking at their loved one, at the man in their life, the man in their household, to be able to dissuade him from taking that step. Or if you see a change in behavior, or maybe more quiet than usual, whatever it could be, withdrawn, that you would kind of step in and help get that person some help. Don't tell him man up and slap him on the back. No. Listen, there is no shame in speaking with a professional. In fact, we all should from time to time. And so this is where the conversation is. You heard, though, during the show, a number of thoughts and ideas were presented in the discussion. Ian Thompson from the Simpson Penn Boys School talked about, listen, oftentimes there are some young men struggling with maybe with sexuality, or struggling with being either assaulted or approached by someone, and that someone could be a man or an older woman, and sometimes that's traumatizing for them. You heard Father Miller talk about the fact that, listen, we really have to be honest and open with ourselves, that we all are hurting on some level, and men for too long in this nation have been almost sidelined and made to feel a certain kind of way. Well, we're just exploring all avenues this evening, and so welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Thank you very much for tuning in. Ian, you wanted to bring another thought to the table. Again, you work with individuals, men, teenage boys, going and experiencing trauma. Pick it up from here. What is it? What other thing that you want to share?
Well, there's one or two things, if I would be allowed, in between, Father. One is I would like to kind of highlight some statistics that I have here on a global scale. It says on average men are about 1 to 8 times more likely to die by suicide than women globally.
Yes.
In some countries, such as the US and UK, men are approximately 3 to 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. In countries like Russia and Eastern Europe, the male suicide rate can be 5 to 6 times higher than the female rate. And there's another statistic, don't quote me, but it's speaking to the lion's share of men. When they do, they're less likely to attempt suicide than women, but when they do, they're more likely to finish the deal.
Yes.
That is eye-popping and staggering by itself, to say the least. But in addition to that, in my tenure doing the center, and I'm not trying to disclose too much, but in my tenure doing the center, I've experienced and realized that there are not only men being abused by men, there are also men being abused by women. There are young boys who have been there before, who have been, when you look into their history, you can see that the door was open to their abuse through a female. So I want to put
And you've noticed a change in behavior in that?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we would joke about it and say, oh, come on. Whether it's a teenager or a man, they love that. They can never be abused by a woman. But you are saying they become traumatized by that?
Yes, they are traumatized by that. In fact, I can share, there is a young man who was there before who was one of the most difficult boys I've dealt with at the center. And during the time, he exhibited some very, very aggressive, very demonstrative behavior. And I suspected something. However, he got older, he was released out of Simpson Penn, and he shared with me personally some things that happened to him and transpired him. And he said to me, I spoke to him, and what he said to me, he reminded me of something I said to him, and I spoke to him while he was in Simpson Penn doing one of his episodes, and I said, who hurt you? And he said to me, at that time, years later, Mr. Thompson, I wanted to tell you so bad what was going on with me, but I was afraid. And that hurt me, because that was a time in his life where it could have avoided him. He could have avoided going in the next direction versus going further into the institution. So you'll find that men in this country are suffering at a very, very young age. It starts from a young age, quite frankly. We have social fragmentation from a sociological level. We find that the homes, as we discussed earlier in the last segment, that the homes are fragmented. There's no father. And then there's an economic position to this as well. Men are empowered when they feel that they're needed. And if a man is not able to provide, he feels useless. Particularly in our Bahamian culture, when the women are looking to you to provide, you know. So there's also a spiritual component to this as well, too, which I believe is the most fundamental component to this. And I believe this is my position, and I will turn it over to you. I believe when a man cannot fit, function, and flourish in his purpose as a man, he will find he is unsatisfied in every other area of his life.
But Father, I hear Ian, right? But a 22-year-old will come to that conclusion?
Yeah, but sometimes, you see, Shanique, we have to realize too, and you know, I think you alluded to this earlier, where you talked about, you know, or someone said it, you have to listen to these children. Sometimes these children are going through just like adults. I would share an experience with you. I got up the other morning to go for a walk, and I saw this text on my phone from a young man. This man is 23. And he said, Father, I need to come and speak to you. And when I read that text, I read something into the text. Mm-hmm. I was kind of busy that day, and I said, you know what? I'm going to cancel what I'm doing because I need to speak with this man because this has to be important. He sent me a text. This was 4 o'clock in the morning when I saw the time on the text. And so he came to my office, and he said, where should I start? I said, brother, just start. I'm here. Listen, and I would give advice. Apparently what happened, he said, and this is a young man in church. Some young man in church, involved in church. He got involved in a relationship with an older woman. And then he got involved in this relationship, and the women kind of, in my view, kind of quote unquote use him to a point and then try to dump him. And he couldn't handle that. He said he started to smoke cigarette. Then he gone out one time, and he ended up using drugs. And so I had to talk to him and let him know that you have made some mistake, you have made some bad judgment, but life doesn't end there. Mm-hmm. You can get out of this, you can move on. I have him now going to Sandlands to seek the professional help so that he don't fall back into the drugs. And he told me, he said, Father, I give it all up. He said, because he was in church, and he heard the voice say to him something about the cross or something. And then he realized, you know, hey,
he needs to get
something,
back.
he needs to get back on track. And so he came to see me, and I advised him, and now I'm in constant contact with him and making sure that he's on the right track, because I didn't want him to fall back in, because the direction he was heading, it could have led to suicide. And so I was happy that he came to talk with me. And I said, look, offload, just put it on me. And so we need to get our men, our boys, and even girls and women, we need to get our people talking.
Yes.
Look, talk to your parents. Talk to your school teacher, your guidance counselor. Talk to your pastor. Talk to somebody, find somebody. Do not be afraid. Do not be ashamed to say, look, this is what I'm facing with in my life. This is my challenge. Be open up. And I'm talking about talk to somebody who you can trust. Somebody who can give sound and good advice. Because you have to be careful just going to anybody who ain't going to give you that kind of advice. But talk to somebody. Life is hard. It'll be amazing when you talk to someone and you hear their story, then you may realize, hey, boy, after all, I ain't too bad.
It's not so bad.
Yeah, after all, life ain't too bad. Yeah. You know, and we have to let people know that, look, okay, the man leave you, okay, the woman leave you, life doesn't end there. Life goes on. You know, you broke now. We live, our lives is like the weather. One day it's hot, one day it's cold. Someday you get good days, someday you have bad days, sometimes you have broke days, someday you have plenty days. And so we need to have people to understand that we can get through this, but talk to somebody. Do not take things into your own hands. Do not be ashamed. Do not be ashamed to show your vulnerability. Do not be ashamed to show your weakness. You ain't sissy and you ain't soft. If you go and talk to somebody, say, this is what I'm facing. Yeah. This is what they did to me. But speak to somebody.
Yeah.
If I may?
Yes.
I honestly feel that as well that, and thank you so much, Father. That was beautiful. I feel that the powers that be, meaning the government that we have in power, we need to develop systems, we need to develop protocols, we need to develop environments that try to heal this issue when it comes to men's health, mental health, emotional health. Much is given, much is required. For as much as we have, intervention for women in this country, there's very little to no intervention when it comes to men. Why are there not leaders in the country who are also speaking about their personal issues, their mental health issues? Because when we look at some of the persons that I see in leadership, and as a young man aspiring to be in that position, when a person that is in leadership becomes vulnerable, it makes me feel that the position he's in is attainable.
Yes.
Because see, now we have this Superman exterior. I say it like this. My pastor says this a lot. He said, "You're never 100% of the time." So, as a leader, or those who are leading, if we start to become more transparent, like Father spoken, Father, share about what you've been through your 10-year in ministry. How has it affected you emotionally? How have you needed to woosah.
So you're trying to say men in particular, who are the leaders, who are the predestined, God-ordained leaders of their home, society, all that. If they see another man like Father, like yourself, like the Prime Minister, like whomever, like whomever it is, like that businessman who makes 7 figures, but if they see them or hear them at some point giving a speech and talking about their climb and talking about how things were a challenge from time to time, as they made it to where they are, they would feel a little better about themselves?
Awesome.
Yes.
Truly, because at the end of the day, we cannot take the humanity out of this. Regardless of the status in life, there is one thing that is a common denominator with all of us inside this room. We are all human. We all experience certain things. We all experience certain emotions. We go through things in life. So if a person who has who's looked at on a higher level in the community, if they're vulnerable, it tells the lesser, hey, listen, I can make that. See, hope is contagious. Once it's spoken of, there's a gentleman who's very popular that I have listened to over the years to kind of give me a pep in my step. His name is E.T. Eric Thomas. I don't know if you've ever heard about him before, Lady Miller and Father. Yes, and he can make you feel like you can run through a wall, right? Because what he provides to the world is an energy, is a resilience that comes from his spirit. And it comes from what he's went through as well. So, each one teach one. Our testimonies are valuable. In fact, if I can mention, Pastor, as I kind of pass it over to him, if he chooses to, the Word of God says that we are overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. There was a testimony.
Yes, I think you're right, Brother Thomas. I think we need to let people know that, look, you're looking at Father Miller and you say, oh, he's a priest and he got it all down pat. Father doesn't have it all down pat. Father has to struggle like everybody else. And so I think what happened, we have this superficial thing where we look at the person up there and we think they're perfect, they this, they that. And so I don't realize that they too had weakness. They stumble and they fall before they got to where they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everyone has their challenges and struggles and all the rest of it. And listen, I have been normalizing mental health since 2018, the beginning of 2018. Let's keep that trending. It's nothing wrong with going to speak to someone, whomever that person, that trusted individual is. And when somebody trusts you and comes to speak to you, please hold their confidence. Hold their confidence and give them good advice. If you're not equipped to do so, refer them to someone else. But don't take it on if you know that you mentally are not there and emotionally are not there. But also don't take it on to go and call someone. Let's just kind of take care of each other. And again, men, seek help. I think you both are ideal and positioned because women have been forming their own groups. Form your own group. Form your group, create that space so that men can be healed and men can rediscover who they are to be able to step in. Listen, ending it all is not the answer.
Yeah.
And so certainly let's move forward in a more healthy form, in a more healthy way.
Yeah. Shanique, I want to say this before we close.
Yeah,
I remember
hear the
late
jingle.
Dr. Miles Monroe said something when they started this thing called the women's desk. He said, wrong desk. Should start at men's desk.
Man, I agree. I'm all for having men
I think sometimes we
be in their rightful places.
Yeah, and I think we have not done a good job in coming together as men.
No, while
each
women do what they do,
Yeah.
I'm all for let's let men lead. Now, men, you got to be equipped to lead. That's all I'm saying. But no, let men be what they are created to be. Thank you both very much. Father Bradley Miller, Ian Thompson. Gentlemen, thank you for a very rich conversation. Thank you both very much. And thank all of you for tuning in this evening. Certainly been my pleasure having you along. And I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.